Just once. Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Charter Review Special Committee. I'm Ryan Dorsey, chair of the committee and representative of the city's 3rd Council District. I am joined today by committee members, Vice Chair of the committee, Councilman John Bullock of the 9th District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Jermaine Jones of the 12th District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Odette Ramos of the 14th District.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We are also joined by Council President Zeke Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have with us our staff member, Mr. Ethan Navarre. How you doing, Ethan? Great. We also have representatives of the mayor's office, others from the council president's office, the Department of Legislative Reference, the law department, the comptroller's office, and thank you all for being here. Before we really get cracking here, I want to hand this over to the council president. Thank you for putting this committee together. Thank you for the honor and the privilege of being allowing me to chair this committee. Mr. President, I hand it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the millions of people watching us on Charm TV. Thank you to Baltimore for caring about this important issue. Look, I said this before, but we are seeing an assault on our democracy at the federal level, where we have a president who is pushing back on our Constitution, who is challenging the judicial branch of government, who is invading blue cities and states. It is, some have said, a true constitutional crisis in our country. But here in Baltimore, we are doubling down on our democracy. And the reason I authorized this committee, this special committee, was because we have a charter, and that charter must be reviewed and taken seriously. The charter is the people's document. The people of Baltimore deserve to have a say in how they are governed and in who governs them. And so I have asked this committee to scrub every section of the charter and make sure it is modernized, it is efficient, and it works for the people that we serve. I've also asked the committee chair to engage in listening sessions across the city of Baltimore where we can hear directly from the people about what they want in their governance. We know that this can be a messy and fractious conversation, but I think it's critically important that the voices of Baltimoreans are heard, that we make sure we have the best document to govern our city possible, and that we are really forward thinking about the city that we want to build, not just in today, but in 5, 10, 15, and 20 years from now. So with that, I want to really thank the members. I know all of us are excited about the prospect of both changing the simple little things that make governance a challenge in this city and also looking at some of the bigger things. So with that, I'll turn it back to the chair, and again, just thank him for his leadership and all the committee members that are serving today.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, the committee is meeting on the need to review the city charter and discuss potential areas of revision. I am incredibly excited to have the opportunity to chair this committee and think it is vital that the city's charter, the people's document, is reviewed with the utmost seriousness and respect. As the people's document, it is vital that the people of Baltimore are afforded the opportunity to share their thoughts and feedback on the revisions offered by members of this committee, other council members, the mayor, the comptroller, or anybody else, as well as share their own ideas for how we can improve the charter. Though the committee will exist for the remainder of the 74th term of the council, this committee will endeavor to conclude its first series of work before May of 2026 so that key legislation can be submitted to the voters on the November 2026 ballot. To that point, any topics not addressed by May will still have the opportunity for further discussion and consideration by the council and public. Over the coming months, the committee and I look forward to receiving feedback from the public, and I will soon announce a series of listening sessions in early 2026 so the people of Baltimore can meaningfully engage with our work to update the city charter. To that end, I would like to invite members of the public to share their thoughts and feedback to this email address, charter.review.committee@baltimorecity.gov, which will be monitored throughout the committee's lifespan. Throughout this process, it will be my goal to ensure that the city's charter is clear, intentional, and includes appropriate material. During these meetings, you will frequently hear me reference appropriate and inappropriate charter material. During my time on the council, I and other members have frequently encountered overly cumbersome provisions that frustrate our work as an efficient and effective legislative body. At its core, the city charter should be a foundational document that explains how the city government works and what the city government can do. Right now, many parts of the charter are overly prescriptive and limit the sort of work that our constituents expect the council to be able to carry out. With that, I look forward to a spirited discussion between my colleagues and want to invite any of the representatives from the administration or city agencies to provide a brief introduction if they would like. So with that, I will go to the mayor's office.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nina Thumles, Director of Government Relations for Mayor Scott. I want to thank you and the president and members of the committee for convening this group. We are currently under review for any items that were submitted by agencies and through the city administrator's office. I'm happy to discuss the one item that we have shared with you to date, but we are doing a comprehensive review and analysis and hope to be bringing some items for consideration in the near future.
Great, thank you. Law Department?
Thanks, Chair Dorsey. My name is Jeff Hochstetler with the City Law Department and look forward to working as law staff to the committee going forward.
Thank you. Department of Legislative Reference, the behind-the-scenes guys.
Ben Guthorn, Director, Legislative Reference, here to serve.
Thank you. The Comptroller's Office.
Good afternoon, Casey Kelleher from the Comptroller's Office. Ditto to what Ben said. We are excited to participate and have various amendments we'd like to discuss with the committee that we've discussed in the past, but also offer some insight. Personally, this is my third charter review, so I love this process.
Thank you. We have on our agenda here to have just kind of like a brief overview of kind of like, what is the charter and how does it work? But our the council's council is stuck in traffic. So with that, I want to maybe just move to the kind of bigger item on our agenda here, which is to just kind of give a layout of topics that we have already had some discussion about in kind of preliminary conversations as we have gathered things from folk. I should go back to my script here. As we undertake the important work of bringing scrutiny to the people's document, I believe it is of the utmost importance that we be as transparent as possible with the people of Baltimore. To that point, it is my intention that anyone's ideas be given open consideration. This is why the next part of this hearing will be about airing the ideas that have been brought up in preliminary discussions with council members, the mayor's office, the controller's office, and others. We'll begin by sharing that list. I'll ask staff to kind of to run through it one at a time. And then I will ask committee members and other representatives here to share any additional ideas that may not be on that list yet, that they may have in mind at this time. And after which we'll turn to, well, we don't have any members of the public here. I'll also, as we go through this, maybe say, knowing where some of these ideas have come from, I'll turn to others here, to offer maybe like a 1-minute tops explanation. I don't want to go like too in-depth here today. I just want to kind of cover this basic groundwork here. We have much work ahead of us. Throughout our subsequent meetings and public engagement sessions, the committee will lead in February and March of next year suggestions that anybody wishes to submit to us, email, things like that. I'm confident the list of potential topics will be extensive. So the thing I want to say before we get into this list is how I envision the committee establishing priorities for its work in the immediate future. And let me just say also, I think we're all here to undertake this in as collaborative a way as possible. This is just how I kind of see a practical way of approaching what I think will be a fairly extensive list. I think that for each proposal, we want to begin perhaps with asking sort of 3 different questions. Or as we look at the list as a whole, we want to ask these questions. First, where does this proposal fall in among the following kind of 3 categories? That it appears to be generally agreeable to the council and to the administration, or whether it is agreeable to the council, but perhaps at odds with the mayor's office, the administration, or that it is lacking any sense of real agreement even among the council members. I think that's a good way of kind of putting proposals into 3 sort of initial buckets. Second, then, what is the immediacy of this need? Should this proposal be handled before the 2026 election, or is it something that seems like it can wait or perhaps needs more work and is better suited to bring to the 2028 election for the people to vote on? And then third, can the Department of Legislative Reference actually draft the bills? We want to be cognizant of the capacity constraints of our city agencies. And are we asking more than we think is within our capacity, within our time constraints, within our timeline? So with that, I will turn to the topics that have already been discussed in the lead up to this meeting. We have a slide presentation, and we have Shamoya Gardner here from the Council President's staff. She'll talk us through these topics, and I'll kick them over to others here and there just to give a few extra words.
Great. Thank you, Chair Dorsey and members of the committee. We will review. Ethan, can we go to the next slide? There are 3 major categories of topics that we currently have for the committee's consideration. We'll start first with structural topics, which are generally about the establishment and organization of public bodies. First up, we've got the composition of the Board of Estimates. There are multiple proposals here, but let's start with the first, being revising the membership of the Board of Estimates down from 5 members to 3. Those 3 members being the mayor, the city council president, and the comptroller. Another proposal would also limit the designees of members of the Board of Estimates to very specific folks. It would be for the mayor, the city administrator, for the council president, the council vice president, and for the comptroller, the deputy comptroller.
Thank you. This is a topic that has had so much discussion from so many people over so many years. I think even what's presented here today is just kind of a short list of things that come up when people talk about the composition of the Board of Estimates. I do know that this is something that Councilwoman Ramos has had some consideration given to, and so I will turn it over to Councilwoman Ramos for no more than 1 minute. I want to keep us sailing through this, just if you have anything to add on this right now.
As you said, Mr. Chair, there has been a lot of discussion about this. Right now, the Board of Estimates has 5 members on it. 3 are, one is the mayor, the other is the Department of Public Works Director, and then the other is the solicitor, as well as the comptroller and the president. The president is the chair of the committee, but it's often has been talked about as having heavily weighted towards the mayor because of the 2 appointees that work directly for the mayor. So the idea is to try to come up with a more balanced approach to the Board of Estimates so that even the considerations from the comptroller and the council president who represents the city council on the Board of Estimates also gets a chance to weigh in much more forcefully than now.
Thank you. Next.
Next up, we've got the Board of Finance composition. A proposal here would increase the membership from 5 folks to 7 by adding both the city council president and the city solicitor or their designees. Would also require the mayor, council president, and comptroller to continue to appoint each of their 1 additional folks to the board, and clarifies that the chair or vice chair of the Board of Finance may not be an elected official or their designee.
This one comes from the Office of the Council President. Anything else to add? No? Okay, great. Let's go on to the next one.
Great. Parking benefits districts would create a special non-lapsing fund for increased revenue sourced from extended pay to park hours in commercial districts. Would also require some accompanying legislation.
I'll speak to this one. This one comes from Councilman Blanchard, who is coaching football right now. But I know a little bit about the idea and where it comes from. The idea is basically that if you're going to collect metered revenue if you're going to collect parking meter revenue in Main Street kind of areas, that Main Street businesses are incentivized to want those meters to be enforced and for the rates to be set appropriately, if there's any sense that that revenue is also going to come back and directly benefit that Main Street area. And so this is, a way of creating a non-lapsing fund that has a special purpose, of which there are many already in the charter. And I think it also, for me, is one of the topics that brings up the question of what is it that's already in the charter that is making it so that we can't do this by ordinance? And that's one of the prevailing questions that I will personally have, that I will bring to virtually everything that comes up as this committee does its business, asking, if there is a specific goal behind a topic proposal, is it possible to achieve that goal by removing something that's already overly prescriptive in the charter, rather than adding something further prescriptive into the charter in order to allow it to be done by ordinance or by other means without having to amend the charter. Yes, ma'am.
With this specifically, though, with this sort of topic around the special non-lapsing funds, in addition to what you talked about, if we wanted to sort of broaden this to all of the non-lapsing funds, right, that we're talking about, but also the main issue for me here is the opportunity for the city council to be able to create funding sources in some way and direct them into those funds, which right now we have to do in a piecemeal way. And so hopefully when we're talking about this, we're really talking about that piece of the fact that there's several of those. My colleague from the 9th is also familiar with one in particular that we worked on together. So I think we want to do that.
This is exactly what I mean by, is there something that is already in the charter that's making it so that we can't do this same thing by other means, and that it has to be done by charter again and again and again, instead of having something in the charter removed essentially to allow it to be done by other means.
All right.
Next.
Next up is a proposal to reform both the Department of Legislative Reference and the Office of Council Services by making DLR an agency of the legislative branch and merging their operations with the operations of the Office of Council Services.
Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was an idea that I've been kicking around a while, looking at the model that we have in Annapolis, where there's an independent Department of Legislative Services that provides the drafting amendments as well as the staffing for the committees. And the idea is to take the Department of Legislative Reference from under the mayor and city council, but also in terms of making it independent, but also making sure that all of those things that supports the writing and information sharing and all of that comes from a body that is independent from the mayor and city council so that it's, again, the information coming from this body has been deemed as independent. And so that was the idea behind trying to put this in the charter. Thank you.
I'm going to go to Councilmember, the Vice Chair, Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to follow up on what Councilmember Ramos mentioned. I definitely understand the rationale. I don't have a problem with that. I would be curious in terms of how DLR and also Council Services will respond to it. And as we talked about, I think part of this is us having certain ideas, but also seeing how they be received. We don't have to go through all that now, but again, I would definitely be open to hearing how you would like to operationalize that, the reaction that you may have in terms of something like that. But thank you, appreciate it.
Next up are the procedural
Can you
topics.
pull the mic just a little bit closer?
Sure. Next up are the procedural topics, the when and how of city operations.
I'll take this one because this comes from me as well as others. Just generally, as I think the parking benefits discussion about like what is in the charter that is keeping us from being able to do this by an act of legislation is a thing that comes up again and again and again. It's also not just about acts of legislation. This is such a broad kind of concept. It's going to touch on many of the things that come up here, including procurement reform and other things. And so I think it's important for us to have this kind of in the forefront and kind of the back of our mind as we go throughout all of the things that we're discussing here.
Next up is redistricting reform. This is a much more detailed proposal. I believe it comes from previously introduced legislation. It is one of many proposals that can be made on the subject. This one would establish an independent commission, establish some dates by which they had to publish a draft redistricting plan, as well as a process for the council to approve or reject the plan. Same for the mayor, and a determination of when or under what conditions the map would be approved.
So does the council president want to add anything to this?
Only having gone through a pretty painful redistricting process in the last term, I think we can do better. I think redistricting became highly politicized. I think it's hard for it not to. There was conversation about the composition of districts, and it got pretty messy. And as someone who, before becoming council president, now representing everybody in the city, had a district that had grown, and so lost a pretty decent geographic chunk of my district. There was a lot of frustration, and it was aimed at me and the mayor and the council president. And, I think there are some creative ways that we as a city can do better. So appreciate consideration on this one.
Thank you.
Next topic is veto reform. The proposal is to decrease from 3 to 2 the number of regular city council meetings that must elapse before the mayor must decide whether to issue a veto. The second part of the proposal is to also allow the city council to override mayoral vetoes at special meetings rather than just at regular meetings as currently required.
I'll just note that as somebody who had a bill that made a small tweak to the veto process in a previous term, I know that this is something that comes up kind of again and again, but only when people are kind of unhappy with the way things have gone. I don't know, but that this is something that's come onto the list through the leadership of the council president's office, but that it's something that I think is on a number of people's minds.
Next topic is the timing of the budget delivery to the city council. The proposal is to move from May 15th up to April 15th, the deadline by which the administration must present the proposed budget to the city council.
This not only comes up among council members, it shows up at our door from members of the public every single year. And so I'm appreciative of the consideration to be given to this.
The next topic addresses the revenue certification schedule for the city. would require that the Department of Finance present to the City Council by or before February 15th of each year on revenue projections, as well as requiring a final certification by or before April 15th with an explanation of any changes since the February presentation. Next topic relates to the timing of audits. Would require that after the close of each fiscal year, the administration submit the annual comprehensive financial report to the council and Board of Estimates by or before December 31st, aligning with, I believe, some state requirements. Minor privileges reform, essentially repealing a requirement for BOE approval of minor privileges.
This is one that I think, I spoke to the city administrator about this a couple of days ago. I know it's something that I've spoken to staff from the comptroller's office about. If somebody wants to put up a sign on their place of business or put a sandwich board out in front of their business to say what they've got on special for the day, these are things that require a minor privilege permit. And the charter today says that all minor privileges have to be approved by the Board of Estimates. If you've ever had to go to before the Board of Estimates, you know what a cumbersome process it is. It's absurd that everything has to go to the Board of Estimates. I think it's this is one of those things that when I think about what are the three buckets that things can go into: agreement among the council and the administration, agreement among the council and not the administration. This is one that I think that nobody disagrees that that's just silly. Anything to add from the mayor's office or the comptroller's office? Mayor's office?
Oh, sorry, nothing to add. I think you summarized it very, very well and clearly, and I think it falls into the overall desire to remove unnecessary items from the charter.
Right. Anything with the comptroller's office?
I would say that in the last 5 years of the Board of Estimates, we've had one issue related to minor privileges that resulted in it having a hearing in front of the board. But that's probably out of over a few hundred that have come to the board. So reducing this administrative burden would definitely, I think, help smooth the board's operations.
Great, thank you.
The next topic is relating to the city seal, and it would move the controlling authority from the Treasury to some other entity within city government to be determined.
Did this come from you?
That came from me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I learned about this the other day, and it seems so obscure that the city seal is with the Treasury, which I thought everything was under finance, but okay. And the reason that the city seal is important to us as the council is because once we pass a piece of legislation, then it gets a seal and an ordinance number. And I'm still waiting 3 weeks later for an ordinance number and the seal on one of my bills that is actually supposed to have been enacted exactly when the mayor signed it. So the idea is just to learn more about the city seal and why it's at Treasury and does it need to go elsewhere, and what the other purposes of why we need the city seal, can it be in another place, all of that. So it's just more exploratory than anything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last category are financial topics related to the budget, supplementals, and other fiscal or financial matters. First topic here is conditional budgetary authority for the council, permitting the council to place conditions on budget allocations to city agencies as part of their work in the budget process.
Thanks. I can't tell you the number of times that members of the Maryland Senate or House of Delegates has said to me, you guys just don't use your budget powers the way that you should. And what they mean every single time is that every single year, the Maryland General Assembly has language added into the budget by amendment and that basically says this amount of money can only be released to this state agency if they provide X to the General Assembly by such and such a date. And they use this power of the purse to get agencies to provide information largely to allow the General Assembly to do its job. It's a critical part of how the General Assembly conducts its oversight of state agencies. And we don't have that power because of a couple of words in the city charter that says we're only allowed to exercise that sort of authority, exercise the use of conditional release of funding to non-city entities. So we can constrain the release of funds to, for example, the state's attorney's office or the courts, but we cannot place constraints to compel DPW to give us certain information or Rec and Parks to give us certain information. And this basic ability to constrain funds in this way for the purpose of oversight, I think, is something that is reasonably expected of us.
The next topic is procurement reform. This is an exceptionally broad topic with many suggestions, many of which are not included on this slide. The first is to just generally remove overly prescriptive provisions related to procurement in the charter. The second is to establish a BOE policy docket and change the role that the council would have in procurement. Another option on the table is the pursuit of best value contracting.
We have a bunch of folks, as Shamoya said, this is a topic that has like many kind of subtopics to it. So I'm gonna go to Councilman Jones and then I'm gonna go to Nina from the mayor's office.
Just to touch on one topic, according to the city charter, it's, lowest bid, often gets it, and it ties the city's hands in being flexible and sometimes choosing the best option for the city. Sometimes, so a best value option would allow the city more flexibility in, evaluating contractors and contracts and seeing, rather than just looking at who's come at the lowest cost, what's in the best interest of Baltimore City residents. So it's just one part of it.
And this part pertains particularly to the capital, generally to the capital procurement side of things.
Yes.
And I know also, maybe it's Rec and Parks, other agencies, DOT has talked about the ability to engage in like design build contracting as another thing that the charter constrains that is similar in this area of also lowest bid versus best value. Does the mayor's office want to add thoughts on procurement in any of these aspects?
Sure. The administration has interest in more or less aligning for what is proper and improper charter material. So right now, in the city charter, there is a lot of language on rules and regulations for the procurement process. And then there are additional rules in the procurement regulations. There are items in the city code. The Board of Estimates also has rules. And so what the administration would be seeking to do is to remove anything that is not really proper charter material and moving that to another place. The proposal at this point in time would be for the Board of Estimates to have a resolution that they pass. And that way it also creates a more dynamic process where over time, as changes are necessary, they're able to be completed in a faster fashion than going back to the charter.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that proposal with us in advance. Moving on.
Next topic is twofold, both related to biennial audit reform. The first is about agencies and essentially increasing public accountability for the use of dollars allocated in the ordinance of estimates by adding several entities to the list of those to be audited. In Group A, we would be adding the clerk of the circuit court and the sheriff's office. In Group B, the register of wills, state's attorney's office, and board of elections. There would also be a couple of updates to reflect the current name of certain agencies like the Mayor's Office of Human Services and the Office of Children and Family Success, as well as removing the Law Department from the list of agencies to be audited.
Comptroller's Office?
Thank you. The biennial audit program has basically been in effect for about 10 years, and it was drafted in response to the council's view, an accurate view, that their audits weren't getting done routinely, and that's how the first list came about. As we're reflecting on the past 10 years and how the program is working, we thought there was an opportunity to include entities that I think are generally thought of as state entities, but get significant city funding. We always get requests to audit these entities, or for one of these Board of Elections, they asked if we could audit them. So we wanted to make sure we could open up our schedule to include them in our process. Regarding removing the Law Department, each year when we go to identify ways to audit the Law Department, we really come up short because a lot of their processes are not something that are auditable based on how their work is carried out. So that is we've had a lot of these discussions at the Biennial Audits Oversight Commission too about what is the proper agency to audit.
I think even as we hear Casey talk about this, it's just such a strong reminder that this is a really good example of something that's in the charter that absolutely does not need to be in the charter. This is programmatic at its very core. This is something that could have been and should have been done as an act of legislation, but was for some reason done as an act of the charter. I think it's probably because there was a whole lot of public discussion about the needs for audits, and it probably looked really politically great to do this as a big to-do at the time, but it's really something that is indicative of how the charter is misused.
The next topic related to biennial audit reform has to do with redundancies, and so would remove any mandated financial audits that are already covered in the requirements of the annual comprehensive financial report. Next topic is capital budget reform. Would create a process for the administration to provide a proposed capital budget to the council for negotiation and/or approval, akin to the one that we have existing for the operating budget.
Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just make sure that the council has more of a deliberation on the capital budget, considering that capital budget is really funding the things that we see and touch, and that residents see and touch. And right now we only approve it at the very end of the process, not at the beginning. There are only hearings before the Planning Commission, and yet the Planning Commission is all appointed, even though we do get a chance to advise and consent. So I believe that we need to be a greater part of the capital budget, especially since the capital budget is made up of not just state and federal funds, but funds that the voters allowed us to be able to, the city, to borrow on their behalf to be able to do the projects that need to be done in the city. And I believe that the city council, as representatives of the voters, need to have more oversight and decision-making on the capital budget. Thank you.
Next topic is closeout supplemental reform. Would just simply clarify that the city charter does not require closeout supplemental appropriation legislation to be introduced to the council.
This one comes from the Council President's Office. I'm going to go to Aaron DeGraffenreich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Aaron DeGraffenreich, General Counsel to the City Council. This comes from the Council President's Office because we've seen the practice over the years is that there'll be at the end of the fiscal year surpluses that are applied from one agency to cover the deficits of other agencies that can give a false sense of balance to the council and the public, and clarifying that there's not a requirement in the charter that be the practice is the goal of this charter amendment.
Thank you.
The next topic is split rate taxation enabling. It would redefine classes of property that are subject to taxation and distinguish the value of the land from the value of the property on the land. This will also require enabling legislation from the General Assembly.
This one comes from Councilman Blanchard, and I think the most critical element here also is that it really does require enabling legislation from the General Assembly.
Next topic is outside counsel reform, would outline a process for city entities that are subject to the opinions of the city law department to petition the circuit court to engage outside counsel.
I'll go back to Aaron DeGraffenreich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This proposal comes more primarily out of the occasional requests from entities like the Police Accountability Board or previously the Civilian Review Board trying to obtain outside counsel and having that sort of perceived conflict of interest and trying to establish an opportunity for a neutral outside of city government process to determine whether or not there is a conflict of interest as the agencies would argue.
And in reinforcement of your earlier point, Mr. Chair, additional topic suggestions continue to be welcome, and members of the public may submit theirs at charter.review.committee@baltimorecity.gov.
Thank you. And I want to emphasize also, this is a 5-member committee, and obviously we've had a lot of stuff coming from the council president's office as well. We've obviously also welcomed other branches of the government. But I also want to make clear that if any member of this council has anything that they want to bring to the table, we're ready to receive it. If any member of the public has anything they want to bring to the table, we're ready to receive it. I want to also now ask, are there additional topics that have not been covered in this initial presentation? Because again, I want to lay as much out on the table for the public, for all of us here at the earliest opportunity as we can. Is there anything first from any committee members that has not been covered in this list that's on your mind at this time that you'd like to throw out there? Is there anything, okay, seeing none. Is there anything from any of the other agencies or branches of government that are here that we didn't cover that we should have had on our list? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
No, this is a good first comprehensive list of some initial ideas, but what I will simply say is I am truly looking forward to hearing from the public. I think, as you've said, as you've articulated, Mr. Chair, this is the people's document, and I really want to make sure this committee and all of us give deference to the residents of this city, give them a real opportunity to weigh in. And so again, I'm looking forward to traversing Baltimore and really hearing from people what's on their mind and how we can make governance stronger in the city. I think a lot of folks, not so much in Baltimore, but just generally are feeling pretty disaffected by politics and by government right now. And I just think this is a beautiful opportunity to do some real listening for the Baltimore City Council and for people of our city to step up, stand up, and share what they want to see. That's all, and I'm really looking forward to hearing it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I think that with so many ideas on the table, it's really important for us to have, we're sitting right now sort of shoulder to shoulder, side to side, and it's kind of weird to have a conversation with your colleagues, when you're not sitting across the table from them. As we get into the subsequent meetings of this committee, I want to, some of them we will move out of this chamber and to across the hall into the current room where we can sit in a kind of a different fashion and have a more fluid kind of dialogue. I certainly don't want to have to be like calling on people all the time, recognizing people. I want to create an atmosphere for this committee and for others and our partners in government here that where we can all chime in to like make sure that all ideas are being heard and just kind of discussed in a fluid manner. So we'll move some of these across the hall to the current room where there is still ample opportunity to conduct an Open Meetings Act compliant meeting, including the throngs of people who are going to come out to participate and hear us discuss the city charter. And I am really looking forward. Look, the charter is something that most people could live their whole lives in Baltimore City and never look at, never think about. And so I think I'm actually really looking forward to the opportunity to go out into communities around the city and try to engage folks in discussion of this over the coming months. No, I think the ship has sailed on that. Any other further kind of closing kind of thoughts here from anybody else? Yeah, Aaron.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to, and I apologize for being late. One of the things I did want to make sure that I convey in this meeting is just the importance of the timeline, that the committee and the other agencies understand the timeline that we are going to be, that the committee is going to be working under, because the process for getting charter amendments on approved, and they get approved, as everyone said, by the voters at the ballot box. The process for them to get onto the ballot is controlled by state law, and the deadlines for those to get cleared by the law department and the State Board of Elections and the, if necessary, the, Attorney General is all prescribed by state law. And so wanted to put the date that I've been talking to people about is May 1st as the best date to try to work from, so that we sort of have that deadline in mind as to when certainly this committee is sort of the best recommendation I can make for this committee to be finished its work, if not the deadline for trying to have any charter amendments to be fully passed the council by May 1st. And so, like I said, that's governed by the fact that is my understanding, the deadline for the law department to transmit the charter amendments that will pass out that are accepted needs to be to the Board of Elections by July 31, 2026. So I arrive at May 1st because once we get into May, if we have not already by May, we will certainly be quickly all hands on deck for the budget formation. And that usually takes up a lot of time and effort, resources, and bandwidth in the council. So there won't be as much of that remaining in my observation and experience after May 1st. So before you close out, I wanted to make sure that I convey that here on the record as the committee gets started.
Appreciate that, yeah. And as I said at the beginning of the hearing here, we're aiming for that May 1st date for things that, we ultimately decide are a priority for us to get done for the 2026 election, and there being plenty of room for us to continue our work after that to address things that we can carry on into the 2028 election as a ballot question, if desired. Councilman Blanchard, thanks for joining us here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're almost about to wrap it up. I want to offer my colleagues here another minute just to say anything in closing if they care to. Anything to be added by DLR, Law, Mayor's Office, Controller's Office? Yes, sir.
Ben Guthorn with Legislative Reference again. On the heels of Aaron's point with respect to timetables, I want to point out, and I know that you articulated this at the top, that the effort to move towards either the 2026 general election deadline or the 2028 general election deadline for these questions is, yes, a first step, but many of these proposals, or at least the topics, touch many other parts of our city code and our regulations, and that the actions with relationship to the charter are not the place that we end, and that there may be a necessity for movement in the code or regulations to match the cadence of this committee. So I just ask the members to please keep that in mind as they are looking at what appears to be a simple change in the charter may in fact have a cascade of effects that touch any number of other different entities in how they conduct business with the city or how they work with this council. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. To that end, I expect to be having a lot of conversation with everybody that's here, and would ask that as we are sort of gelling around some priorities here, that if one person is sort of tasked with being the point person behind a certain thing, that we're all in like kind of like sort of constant dialogue about what we're finding, what we're hearing as we ask the law department and ask DLR to do a dive into like, if we want to undertake this, like what is it going to touch on, and what is the magnitude of the drafting effort and revision or review effort that's going to be required of our agency partners in order to make these things possible. I think we want to try to suss that out pretty early in this process for whatever seems to sort of gel as our like most immediate priorities. Thanks. With that, we have concluded the first ever hearing of this Charter Review Committee, and our next hearing will be on November 19th. Just real quick, should we think about moving that one over across to the current room yeah, I feel like that's probably that feels like the right venue. I can make a formal announcement about that change of venue at the council meeting on Monday, but putting here on the record, we're going to take this one across the hall. Thanks, everybody.
One strike.